Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion right here, right now, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by the one, Paul, Flatzoid and 10th Man in G+. Very good to have you all.
Good morning.
Afternoon, hello.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, and I'm going to scurry to get a few people off mute in the Discord server. Hello, if you are already.
Well, good morning.
Good morning. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not from San Jose.
Not from England.
From South Africa, nee?
No, there are no curves on planes.
Nothing from England.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not on Discord.
There is just a presupposition that there is axis along the sky that makes the stars rotate around it, but there is no proof of axis either way. And that's claimed to be a Earth-based axis, so they say that we're spinning and not the stars, which is a presupposition that Earth has an axis. So where's the axis?
Where's the motion? We have no motion of this Earth spinning.
You can't even observe anything moving.
Fair enough. What about scientific evidence of gravity?
No, gravity never existed.
Or donut scientific.
Which kind? Which kind?
Which kind of gravity? Don't care. Whichever you want. Whichever has scientific validity for it.
Chocolate donut with sprinkles on.
Then neither.
Neither have scientific validity. Yeah, we know.
Yep, no gravity
Just
has
checking.
validated scientific evidence to it, because gravity, since its beginning, was a made-up story by pseudoscientists.
Well, the
We were
distance...
saying earlier that when you're growing up, they always refer to something falling down as gravity. Even in sports, gravity took over, say on the golf ball or something. And so they just label equilibrium, disequilibrium as gravity. And now we're trying to educate everyone by saying that it's not, and it should not be called gravity.
But gas, does that do that?
It's like hijacking perspective. They're hijacking down.
Perfect.
Sure, but yeah, they're hijacking down, but does gas do that? Go down,
It goes in all
boom, boom.
directions.
So gas doesn't go like a golf ball then?
No. Gas disperses in all directions.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Nope. We don't know what the sun is. We don't know its shape or size, so we cannot determine a distance to it.
And nor a location.
Yep.
An actual location.
Someone in Discord the other day said that Red's Rhetoric had some evidence of that. but he hasn't come on to explain it. Apparently, trigonometry is involved.
Well, you know who Red's rhetoric is, right?
I've heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, Nathan owns him.
Oh, I get it totally. Yeah.
Speaking of red rhetoric, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
There is no R value.
Not according to red rhetoric.
Nope.
Yeah.
The stork?
Our stocks have plummeted.
Our stocks are not being bought.
Exactly.
We are winning.
We are winning.
Any evidence of any viable hypothesis in the entire history of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, or astrophysics?
Still waiting for that.
Well, not by Danny Faulkner, PhD astronomer.
Is Danny Faulkner an astronomer or an astrophysicist?
Astronomer.
What is the difference?
An
The
astrophysicist.
scope,
Oh, go ahead.
the scope of his understanding.
Pretty good answer. He's actually looking through lights in the sky rather than just simply making up bullshit. I think the difference is he has access to a telescope.
He observes the celestial objects then, and then makes up his bullshit.
Yeah, you've got it.
Cool, thanks.
Nathan, didn't you, or do you still have your telescope?
I do. Well, I still own the telescope. It's at the mother-in-law's, getting dusty in a spare room somewhere. But no,
So
I don't
you-
really have access to it
Wouldn't an
anymore, unfortunately.
astronomer? Sorry
Go
about
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
Wouldn't an astronomer observe and not necessarily pontificate,
I think it's more...
where your astrophysicist would actually make claims and try to basically explain and put together the whole narrative?
Astrophysicist is a contradiction in terms. So astronomy being the observation of the celestial bodies, and physicality? No. So that's a contradiction in terms. The name is. Astronomy? What, the naming of things in the sky? Well, that's fascinating. Neither are sciences. That's the bottom line here. Neither have any viable hypothesis. Any evidence of a self... Go ahead.
Nobody went and took a sample from a star or from a black hole and brought it down with the jar to be examined by astrophysics. That's bullshit. Space is fake.
They just use spectroscopy.
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 Yeah.
So we had on one of the Ballbusters, I think it was his first appearance, Dr. John D. It might not have been a Ballbusters. I'll double check this when QE rears his head. But Dr. John D is a I almost said the wrong version. Spectroscopist. So he is professional spectroscopy operator. What's the correct term? I think it is spectroscopist, isn't it?
I was on that. I mean,
No,
I
it
listened
is.
to that
It's
show.
spectroscopist.
Spectroscopist?
I think you're right. It's spectroscopist. But he's a professional, and essentially he highlighted the fact that you've got to control things when you're analysing them with his very expensive piece of equipment that's completely isolated from everything around it. And the cut to the shot of the celestial spectroscopy lab, and it's got a completely open top and it's open to the atmosphere, and it's like, that's a bit of a transition away from what I do. You know, it's yeah. Just check that video out. As I say, I'll get the title of it when QE turns up. But it was very eye-opening. I mean, I had a vague idea why they were bunk in the first place when they're applying celestial spectroscopy. But ultimately speaking, it's nice hearing it from someone who's an actual professional in that field.
It was
I
fantastic.
think it was Adam
because
Meakin who said that in that show.
It was
About
a
the
really good
open-
show because he was showing how the medium between where you're doing the test and what you're doing the test on has to be controlled. And here you have all of Earth's atmosphere and all the junk in the air and everything else, light pollution, other than that one light that's 2 quadrillion billion years away, and you're supposed to go through all this maze and only study that one light 2 quadrillion billion years away? What? It was a joke.
Based on our... Only that distance if you base
They've
it on...
hijacked spectroscopy as well. They hijack everything and then tell us what it is.
Yeah, they even hijacked the air. Atmosphere now, right? Atmo. Presupposition of a fundy belief. Atmosphere.
Yep.
No, apparently the air is not the atmosphere, I've heard.
Atmo. Means air. Moving on.
Oh,
Any
I'd like
evidence?
to add something else.
Go
if I
ahead.
may. Yeah, about way back in the past. You know, I remember when I still believed the whole globe thing, and I remember that astronomers or people that were into that would really like claim, yeah, we know what happened millions of years ago because look, that starlight, because it's traveling such a long way. What we see now is millions of years ago. Don't forget that trick.
Assuming R.
Yeah. In R they trust.
Assuming Narnia also.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Well, Ted. So, what medium you say? Looking through all of the air
Vacuum.
presupposition, fundy presupposition, atmosphere, and what's beyond that fundy presupposition of atmosphere that's not dispersing into the what else they got to look through? Oh yeah, Narnia. I mean, outer space.
You mean the violation of the second law of thermodynamics? You cannot have
Yeah,
gas pressure
that's
without a
right.
container.
That's right. They're peering through a violation of the second law of thermodynamics sky vacuum as well.
The empty part of the container.
The bit the gas isn't filling, according to their rhetoric, that violates natural law. That's correct. Talking of violating natural laws, is there any evidence that you can even have gas pressure without a container?
Nope. Zero.
Nope.
Nope.
Not on Discord. No.
Somebody in my chat said that it
Nope.
was a presupposition to assume that.
According to
You
all
can't
the
even-
astronomers and scientists out there, a YouTube video takes care of it.
They can't even show a vacuum without a container.
Yeah. If you ask a PhD astronomer, they'll refer you to a redneck retard on YouTube. Hey, chocolate.
Yep. Hey, Choco.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Live from
Wait, we
New
got a
York.
Discord.
Yep, they've hijacked the vacuum as
We
well.
got at least. Sorry, I'm not trying to step on anybody. We got a full Discord here. 4 people here at least that are Globers. Any claims?
Share your pain. That's the end of housekeeping.
No?
Any
Curtis
claim
Black?
that they're going to have is only going to be observable by very, very minute increments, or the stars will change, but it's still going to take 10,000 years. But trust us, it'll change. Or the microns, it's all so tiny you can't even notice. But trust us, it's doing it.
So there is no evidence that the globe from Discord goes once, twice, and sold. No evidence.
Hey, hot pipe. Do you have
Don't be
any
too-
evidence?
Don't be too hard
a
on
working
them. They're only
microphone.
here to learn.
Yeah, I don't want to stop them to learn.
When the argument falls
That
apart,
Akum virus, that is such a great toe tag. I laughed out loud multiple times the other day. It was, how do you do that?
Well, we offer.
Yeah, it was amazing. We got
hot.
hot pipe. Hot pipe's thing is blinking, but I'm not hearing any sound. Hot pipe,
We also-
try to drop and rejoin if you want to say something.
Here
You
on
see
the flat Earth
hot pipe
debates,
on your screen there, Nathan.
I do. He's not saying anything. I did see him flashing though.
here on the flat Earth debates, we
Just bear with
give
us a
you-
second. The one we've got a full Discord server with hardly anybody saying anything apart from regulars. So that's why we're just doing a bit of admin. And Travis is trying to. Was it Travis just speaking a second ago?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's me.
Why aren't you a mod? I've said this loads of times. You should be a mod. on
I
this
am
show.
a mod.
You are a mod now.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God! About bloody time. Yeah, you're pain ballers. We're not joking when we say that. We appreciate that holding these contradictory positions with us pummeling them on a daily basis is actually painful. And we're not saying that ironically or sarcastically. We appreciate that you are actually in pain.
And here on the Flat Earth Debates, we offer very extensive courses about learning, and we give you a shoulder that you can cry on, so we can help.
Well, speak for yourself, the one. I don't know about shoulder to cry on, but we'll certainly educate you.
This is dramatic effect, sorry.
Educate you in the way the world really is, based on scientific empiricism. Something
Well, I was just
sorely
trying to-
lacking.
In all honesty, it is a tough thing to come to terms to at first. It's not an easy thing to deal with.
No, exactly. Share your pain. We want to help you. We want to help you realise just how wrong you are and just how deceived you really are when it comes to living on a spinning water ball flying through a vacuum. We want to help.
Yeah, you need help.
Yeah, you need help.
It took me, I mean, even watching hundreds of shows of this show, it still takes a minute. Especially, it depends on how indoctrinated you were or how much you thought you knew ahead of time. But it's really, it takes a minute.
Right, you got to fight off all the reflexes that work their way in there while you were still a believer. That's
Yeah. You also have to want to know the actual truth as opposed to the comfortable lie.
Yeah, but logically
That's
sound
where it
people
becomes
come to
liberating.
terms.
It's easy to think about it now, but you're right. Like you have to, once you get past those first couple of hurdles, the other ones are easy, but it's tough. It is not an easy thing to come to terms with. I
Fortunately.
think also the older you are, the more indoctrinated you've become. It's harder.
But fortunately, there are places set up to help. We are one of them.
Yeah, we're here for you, ballers. Share your pain.
yeah. Also recommend the early bird show.
We've got Julio Pabon. You're off mute. Julio, do you have anything to say? You're a Glober. I'm gonna start kicking people if no Globers speak up.
Boot them to the after show if they don't
Anybody
respond.
catch this live on the live stream at Nathan Oakley.
If they don't
1980,
respond,
is it?
If they don't respond, just boot them to the after show.
Affirmative.
Back to the comment on virus. His argument fell apart. Then he resorted to saying, "I'm here to learn," rather than conceding that his argument fell apart.
And then demanded a debate with a fair moderator right after that.
Exactly. How disingenuous is that?
I literally, I was shoveling snow and I started laughing out loud. In a way, though, I feel you had to feel bad because you're right. It is hard. Share your pain. He's in pain. Like it's cognitive dissonance at its finest.
Well, you would never play a board game with someone like that because they could never say they lost.
No, it's not like that.
Like my 5-year-old, 6-year-old.
No, it's not like that. The rules of the board game say the Earth's a sphere. Those are the rules. They're written down. They're documented. He thinks he's got the right rule book and understands the right rule book. We're turning around saying, yeah, the people who wrote the rule book lied. And he can't get past the rule book itself. So it's not a fair analogy to say, these people are stupid, because they are brainwashed. But their brainwashing is the current rhetoric. So that makes it very hard for some people. Share your pain.
But
that's why I feel bad at a certain point. It's like you really kind of feel for people.
But even within the board game rules, when your argument falls apart, you must concede, and they don't.
Well, that's cognitive dissonance, though, isn't it? Because concession would mean that they have to reject one of the positions that they hold to be true that's in contradiction with another position that we're demonstrating to be wrong. Well, it's back to the position they hold to be true, even though it's demonstrably wrong, is written down in the rulebook as being correct. So it does not compute.
Therefore,
But
don't
that's
play
what
a
doesn't make
baller
sense.
in the
That's why
board game.
even when you beg the question, it doesn't work for them. Even when you beg the question, it works. It doesn't work on all angles.
Sure, but by the same token, we've said this many times, that you wouldn't need to beg the question if Earth was actually a sphere. It would be obviously and observably spherical. It wouldn't be subtle.
No doubt, no doubt. But even when they do beg the question, it's like, no, you have no legs to stand on at this point, or pants to fit in.
Right. I don't know.
Yep.
I didn't know that the Acum virus conversation would be eye-opening. But
Oh my
clearly it
goodness,
was.
yes.
That was
I just listened
entertaining
to it
and
too.
eye-opening.
I only pulled it apart because for several shows, don't get me wrong, everybody on our side of the argument appreciated why his juxtaposition between leaving reference frames, i.e. stepping off a roundabout, and leaving your trousers behind or leaving your pants behind when you change your pants was a poor, or just a terrible analogy. It wasn't comparable in the slightest, but in his mind, I knew that he felt that we just didn't understand. That's why they say that so often. No, you just don't understand, because they're holding a position that's contrary. And as I say, it's in this analogy.
As if we didn't believe this for 20, 30, 40 years.
Exactly. But he now, because he's told, thinks we're delusional and stupid, because that's what he's told. Therefore, he's the arrogance level's off the scale with most globers we argue with, because they automatically assume that they're in a position of intellectual authority. And it's that in itself is quite humiliating, to be shown to be wrong by somebody that the public deemed to be inferior in one way or another, like Philistines. That's how we're considered. You look at the wiki tabs underneath us when it says that it's an archaic model, and in many respects I agree with the wiki outsert that's under my videos, because they're saying it's an archaic model. It's like, yeah, an archaic reification of flat Earth would just be as bad as reifying a globe Earth, but nevertheless, I appreciate the sentiment is also very negative towards people who are looking at this subject. But ultimately speaking, that's the laid down narrative. It's right there underneath a lot of these videos for you to just go and click on. The idea that holding the position of Earth being observably flat, which it is absurd. Therefore, when you hold a position, hold it up correctly. Not that was this, when you're talking about pants being left behind, but nevertheless, I knew in his mind he thought that was a good example. It was squaring the circle for him, purely because he's stupid, and he didn't appreciate how bad an example it was. So I wanted to take him through it and get him to the point where he appreciated that it's a poor example. And also, it was my opportunity to point out that he didn't really understand why he had been educated by his peers on globe Earth to argue in that manner. He doesn't understand that the whole purpose of arguing that manner is to beg the question that Earth is the non-inertial spinning reference frame. He never dropped it in once. You know, with Zanuck, I'm leading him to drop it in so I can hammer him when he does. But Acumvirus didn't appreciate the intricacies of that side of the globe Earth argument, and how to weasel in a presupposition of a non-inertial spinning reference frame that is Earth. In fact, at the conclusion, he didn't even know what a non-inertial reference frame was. He incorrectly declared that the roundabout was the inertial reference frame. So, you know, these people, like I say, they start off from a position where they believe they're in authority intellectually, and with the correct information off the instruction manual in this analogy, and when it's shown overtly to be incorrect, they can't quite believe it. You know, it does not process, it will not compute. I can't be wrong, I've got the correct rhetoric, and I've gone and polished up on it with my globehead friends.
They started off...
Go ahead.
No, they started off by saying the entire body of science proves all this, to now, I heard it the other day, science doesn't prove anything.
So we keep saying it, fundies.
Yeah, it's because they've misappropriated the word science. So what they mean by that is actually the whole body of pseudoscience proves you're on the globe. Well, the whole body of pseudoscience doesn't prove anything. So pseudoscience doesn't prove things, and it was the whole body of pseudoscience that backed the globe. They just misappropriated the word science and didn't actually have any scientific validity. Well, poor bluff. Because if you're going to use the word science and say you've got scientific validity for Earth being a sphere, and then someone comes along and goes, go on then, let's see it. And they go, science doesn't prove anything. No, you didn't have any science, you had pseudoscience, and the whole body of pseudoscience didn't prove a thing. That's what that actually means.
Nathan?
Exactly. Did you guys think that 3 years ago when you were saying there's all this science for the ball? Did you think 3 years later you'd be saying science doesn't prove things just because you've been brought up to show your science and you have done?
Nathan, is it
Great.
correct to say that the whole body of pseudoscience proves that we're on a flat plane?
No, because we don't need the whole body of pseudoscience when it's obviously and observably flat. Barrow in finesse, 22 miles yesterday from Ranty. That's the end of the statement. There's Devonshire Dock Halls, 22 miles. End of statement. Earth is obviously flat. That's the end.
70 miles.
Well, my point is that there's no need to assert pseudoscience or utilise logical fallacy to state the obvious. When you see something, there it is. That's the end of your assertion as a flat earther. It's very simple and easy to be a flat earther. It's a very comfy, cushy position to be in. And when I say, again, if you want to share your pain, it's because you're a globehead who's deceived and the world that presents itself to you is not a sphere. It is obviously and observably flat. And our smugness reflects this. We're not pummeling you guys on a daily basis and having you say the Earth isn't provable by science. No. Science just wasn't ever on your side. Pseudoscience does not prove your model. Your reification of a globe model was never real to begin with. It's just a reification fallacy. You didn't have any science. Well, that's a comfy position for us, right? Very uncomfortable and awkward for them.
Yeah,
well said, Nathan. Well said, Nathan, because they went from...
Well said.
They go from seeing the ships disappear. Now you got to get higher. Oh, you got to get 120, 140,000 feet up now to see what they were at one time saying. Yeah, climb a tree now.
Yeah, but they say you can't see Earth's curve. It's too big. But then again, they say you can see a boat over the curve. It makes so much sense.
That's why it's pseudoscience.
I mean, it's ironic that the people who are supposed to be the champions of the globe, the Neil deGrasse and all these guys, there are so many quotes out there that contradict that they're messing it up for everybody else. It's amazing. Those people are supposed to be the people to look to, and they're messing.
Yeah, really rub it in.
Yeah, Rumpus trying to tell scientists not to be scientific.
Well, that's what I meant with saying
that. Rumpus saying things like we need to get the physicists out there to stop telling people that gravity is a force or gravity is not a force, right, Rumpus? Because why do you need to do that? Is it problematic for the common layman to know that gravity is not a force? What's the problem? I don't understand. That's your rhetoric. Why do you want to stop them from spewing their own rhetoric? That's very shady, Mr. Rumpus. Very fucking shady.
Well, the whole reason of pseudoscience existence is so it can present a globe. That's why I said that the whole body of pseudoscience proves flat Earth, because it's the only reason we have it.
Well, when Neil deGrasse Tyson correctly to his model, but incorrectly because it's not reality, said that football went into the field goal because the Earth was spinning underneath, well, first of all, that doesn't happen on Earth, but that statement backfired so much because it is their model that says that's happening. But then Nathan said, well, if it's happening with the football, why isn't it happening with the helicopter? Why isn't it happening with the flight from North Carolina to LA?
That was huge.
So
That was
That was
totally
huge.
huge.
And it garnered a similar reaction initially as well. Like, people's hearts sank when he tweeted that out. So, oh, he's asserting a Coriolis proof to the masses. They're all going to be that little bit more brainwashed. You go, no, that's really useful. You know, all of these bundies who come here assert that Earth and atmosphere travel as one. No deviation, to account for the fact that planes don't have a reduced flight time. Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson at least backs the fundy assertion as it's supposed to be. You claim Earth rotates underneath. Here's it stated by your priest. Now what are you going to do? Have Rumpus tell Neil deGrasse Tyson it's inconvenient that he's tweeting out that Earth rotates underneath the atmosphere with the ball in it? Yeah, that is inconvenient because it doesn't happen. So, very inconvenient. Everything they say is going to be inconvenient when it's related to a spherical spinning Earth flying through a vacuum. We're not on a spherical Earth. There is no
It's not
curvature.
inconvenient. It just happens so small. It's so minute you can't even tell. It's happening though. It's just so small you can barely notice.
Now it's gotten to a point when asked, when does the Earth begin spinning underneath an object in the air? And the answer is literally, what makes you think the Earth is supposed to be spinning underneath it? That's literally something that Zanuck himself said.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, Zanuck, did you really just say that? Because isn't that your argument, that it's supposed to be spinning underneath objects in the air? So you literally changed the complete argument.
Yeah,
Good job.
The guys in the trenches are more than content to stray from the rhetoric to justify reality. So the guys in the trenches, you know, it's quite clever in a way that they're segueing us off a demonstration that's claimed to prove Earth spins, which is Coriolis effect, and segueing it with the old bait and switch onto retention of angular velocity. I.e., no deviation, no Coriolis effect, you can't see it, it's not there. Well, that's an argument that we would be saying demonstrates we're not moving, i.e., no Coriolis effect, but they end up arguing with us for a justification of having no Coriolis effect, rather than just using the rhetoric as it should unfold. If the Earth is spinning, you'd have a Coriolis effect, as asserted by Neil deGrasse Tyson. Now, his assertion is utilising a 2-second hang time with a football, and if it's curving to the appearance of the people in the stands who are rotating with the Earth rotating under the ball, then the helicopter, drone or aeroplane would also have the Earth rotating underneath it. That's the point of Neil deGrasse Tyson's assertion. Earth rotating underneath this ball. Earth should rotate underneath this drone here. Oh, what's that? It doesn't. So that's where we get into the arguments with the people in the trenches that say, oh no, the reason it doesn't show any deviation on the drone, well, hold on, it should. That's the end of that argument. It should show deviation if we have Earth rotating. Now, their next workaround in that problem is that they obviously still need to assert that Coriolis proves Earth spinning, so they just formulate into the logical fallacy that has Earth spinning from the outset. So when you're in the argument, although a cum virus didn't get this and Zanuck obviously does, you need to always position your observer on a non-inertial spinning reference frame, because then every time it gets to the point where you say, well, isn't this supposed to demonstrate Earth is spinning, they've already begged the question and got Earth as a non-inertial spinning reference frame through all of their distraction and obfuscation. So they can beg the question normally when they've left their opponent in total confusion. Now, because of a couple of solid months arguing about it and really brushing up my own cognition in terms of how to debate this, I'm just waiting for them to beg the question so I can pounce on them. But it ended up getting dragged out more and more and more in terms of Coriolis effects, so they can try and keep it as convoluted as possible for when they beg the question, hoping nobody notices. Well, once we'd figured that magic trick out, and it was, in my opinion, by far the most complicated of all the magic tricks for the globe Earth, even more so than gravity. It's a very, very complex trick to pull, to have the guys in the trenches arguing against Coriolis deviation and the guys on the mainstream media arguing for Coriolis deviation. That's a delicate balancing act to pull off. Now that we've figured that out, we go, well, you don't get to beg the question anymore. No, examples that start with Earth being a non-inertial spinning reference frame simply won't cut it anymore. You're not going to start by saying, if the Earth's spinning, then we will observe a football deviating. Yeah, no, we're not going to tolerate that. That's assuming your outcome. You're saying that you've got an Earth that spins to begin with in your example, and then you justify some effect that you observe as a cause by that which you have assumed at the beginning of your statement. So begging the question in regards to sphere Earth spinning is also something that is no longer tolerated, but only because we've gone through the painful, drawn out, tedious process of unpicking that magic trick. And as I say, I'm more than happy to put my hand in the air and say of all the globe Earth magic tricks, Coriolis deviation is by far and away the most complicated to unpick. Hey, Ranty.
Hiya, you're right. How is everyone?
Very well.
Good
to see you.
Coriolis, I think also Coriolis is one of the most devastating points to their quote-unquote.
Yeah.
Because it should be evident everywhere
because every
we go.
time
I mean,
somebody
my drone should do it. Planes should do it. Helicopters.
walks
It's
outside
like
there.
one of the most devastating.
Yeah, you should jump up and down and experience Coriolis deviation. You should throw a ball and experience Coriolis deviation. You should launch a drone and see it drift away from you as you rotate underneath it. You should be able to get on a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina, fly to LA, and arrive an hour and a half later because Earth's rotating underneath you. That's what happens to give you the Coriolis deviation. But the way the trenches work is, assume Earth is spinning, give an example that states it's caused by that which I have assumed. So in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example, hey folks on Twitter, I'm going to assume Earth's spinning. And because it's spinning, this ball's deviated. Check it out. Oh, fuck you. No, let's not just assume that the ball deviated because Earth was spinning, when it blatantly has no demonstrable effects of that beyond this affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy where you start with the assumption Earth's spinning. So sod that. We won't do it anymore. No problem.
Let's not fail to...
sports people are probably not going to check quote unquote sciencey things, and I think sports people outnumber quote unquote sciencey people.
Well, science people aren't going to check the pseudoscience that gets stated in this regard, and the pseudoscience that gets stated in this regard can be very easily picked apart by asking for actual scientific validity to this cause and effect assertion. See, we've got this very handy method for establishing cause and effect, and that would be called the scientific method. So good luck varying and manipulating Earth turn for your cause of star rotation, for example.
But Neil deGrasse Tyson's on the telly. He must be a pro at this. Why would I want to check his math? He must have gotten it right. He's on the.
To say, math isn't science. If you're going to assert cause, Earth turn causes star rotation. Earth turn causes the sun to come up in the morning. Oh, well, that's a causal relationship. You better get your science acumen together and establish cause and effect through systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. That would be an empirical way of validating that which you claim, with your affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy that absolutely would not be required if Earth was in any way spherical or turning, which it isn't.
But I saw it on the telly.
You saw a CGI rendering.
If it was actually turning, you could just measure it.
You didn't see it on the telly. You saw a CGI rendering at the beginning of every Universal flick that you ever watched. That's it.
Yeah,
Nathan, let's not forget the backtracking once the initial argument is overcome. They say that the atmosphere is moving at the same velocity as the Earth is spinning.
Yeah.
And yet you can go outside.
Hold on. Before you go on to your conclusion, that wouldn't give you a Coriolis deviation, though. If Earth and atmosphere were presupposed to be spinning, and not only spinning but spinning together, you wouldn't have any Coriolis deviation. That ball wouldn't deviate when it left the ground in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example if there were only one reference frame, Earth and atmosphere as one. You need two reference frames, Earth rotating underneath the ball travelling through the atmosphere in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example. So the trench argument that we get, which 10th Man's about to detail a debunk of, is ultimately an argument that we don't have any Coriolis deviation. Oh, Earth and atmosphere travel as one, therefore we don't see any deviation. Well, the deviation is what's supposed to prove Earth spins. And we'd see it if it did. We just don't.
Yeah, and then they take
wouldn't the tangential speed be faster anyway?
They take it to the example of being in a car with the windows rolled up or in a train with everything enclosed, and they say, see, well, that's one reference frame and everything. There's no Coriolis there. It's like your argument fell apart. Then you came up with the atmosphere moving as one. Then your argument falls apart again. And here, let me really bury it. Let's go outside. Oh, do you feel that wind moving? It's gas law.
No,
Gas moves in all directions. It's not spinning with anything. It does what it wants.
They think that the wind can cause something to gain or lose velocity by going up or down in altitude, because if it can just hover and it's supposed to be spinning and it's gaining or it's remaining its tangential speed, then how do you remain with that same if you gain altitude, how are you gaining velocity at the same time? Wind? That's what they say. It's wind.
No.
And then when you go down, you're supposed to lose velocity, and
don't
also wind is
speculate.
fairly...
Oh, God. Once you get your question in, don't drone on endlessly when you've got a nice, concise question in. Let it be answered. So why do we not have a violation of the first law of thermodynamics as they raise in altitude and gain velocity with this retention of angular velocity? It's going to increase the retention of its velocity from the ground. Now, that's a violation of the first law of thermodynamics. So no, as you raise up, yes, you'd increase the overall circumference that you'd be traversing. Well, in order to do so, if it's claimed you retain angular velocity, you'd have to violate the first law of thermodynamics. No, that's definitely not happening. But that automatically assumes Earth is spinning and automatically has a begging the question on steroids that is atmosphere travelling with Earth in order to defy any deviation, i.e. show no Coriolis deviation, the very thing they're supposed to be using to prove it spins. So this is a 3 steps away from the proof that they need to justify why Earth simply doesn't demonstrate any deviation. That's all it is.
And let's not forget the other diversionary tactic that they used, which was change of latitude, right? So that was the cause all of a sudden for Coriolis, was change of latitude.
Right.
So you could only have the deviation if you went north or south. Apparently east and west don't really matter on this ball that spins.
Hence, a total lack of comprehension of what is and is not Coriolis deviation. The leaving of one reference frame and entering another reference frame for a projectile and the observation thereof is what Coriolis effect actually is. I.e., in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example, the ball leaves a claim to be spinning ball Earth and enters an inertial reference frame, the atmosphere. If you remain in the stand with the spinning reference frame of a claim to be spinning Earth, then the ball travels straight in reality, but you see it seeming to curve. Now, it's not that the ball just is curving because someone's put a little spin on it when they kicked it. No. That's because Earth's presumed to rotate underneath it. And if Earth rotates underneath the football because it's left the non-inertial spinning reference frame and entered an inertial frame, then a plane also leaves a non-inertial spinning reference frame and enters an inertial frame when it takes off. And your flight from Charlotte to LA would take an hour and a half, but doesn't, because Earth simply doesn't exhibit any of these effects that you would require 2 reference frames to have. So the endless droning argument about having 1 reference frame is an argument against the effects of Coriolis deviation, which requires 2 reference frames. Simple. So when they argue about needing to change latitude, then they don't understand Coriolis. The effect of Coriolis being the projectile leaving one reference frame and entering another, and you as the observer rotating underneath. So if we have Coriolis effect, the plane leaves, and us on the inertial reference, non-inertial reference frame observe it seeming to curve. Now the plane's really flying straight in their bullshit example of spinning ball Earth, but we seem to see it curving and not actual deviation because we're spinning underneath it. And if we're spinning underneath it, then it's going to arrive early because it's going to have the Earth spinning underneath it when it's travelling from Charlotte to LA on pretty much the same latitude line. So if that's the case, you get an hour and a half flight time from Charlotte to LA, coincidentally something that was very concisely summarised by Brian Mullen, and then subsequently attacked by George Netanyahu, his supplier of his licence contacted, because he's pointing out that if we had Coriolis deviation, you'd necessitate Earth rotating underneath aeroplanes, drones and helicopters, and shortened durations of flight times. Well, you don't have that, because Earth isn't rotating. There aren't two reference frames. And the trench argument is to say, oh, we've only got one reference frame. Well, no, then no deviation. No proofsy for a spinning ball Earth.
Apparently, they're not all up to date and current with their own rhetoric, because I remember Planar Walk came on here one time and tried to assert to us that the Earth does actually spin underneath planes, and that he asserted that a plane going from New York to LA actually takes longer than the opposite way. Well, if the Earth was spinning underneath, it wouldn't work that way. You'd get to LA, you'd travel west much faster than you travel east. If you could even reach your destination if you're trying to fly the same direction the ball is spinning, because it's spinning faster than you're flying. It's like,
well, chocolate, not only that, but when they resort, I'm trying to finish that statement I was making earlier, the wind turbines for green energy, on windy days, they're spinning. On calm days, they're not spinning. If the atmosphere was stuck or moving with the Earth's rotation as one, it would be turning all the time. We would have wind in our face all the time, depending which way you're facing, because it's moving as one. Now, we don't experience that because it's not turning with the Earth, because the Earth's not turning. And if they're going to double down on that argument that in a car or in the railroad cab, that resembles their point, then they have to say that the Earth is contained in an enclosure, which they can't because they have an open system. The argument falls apart because the Earth is not spinning.
But they're trapped in their own doublespeak.
You wouldn't have east, south, north winds. You just have westerly winds.
Okay, Ranty, I'm gonna. You there, Ranty?
I am, yeah.
I've just stuck your comparison picture on screen for the audience. So we've got Devonshire Dock Hall on the top, and then your 22-mile observation, or 22.6 or something like that, observation on the bottom. I've got it on screen now for the audience. I know you can't see it in the Hangout.
I can see it now. Wonderful. Wonderful.
So talk us through it. I know you've displayed this before, but it was only yesterday.
This was from yesterday, 23.7 miles away, 23.75. I went back actually, and I measured, so it was even worse for the globe, because I went back at exactly high tide, and where I was standing on the bottom of the ramp was enveloped by about about a metre and a half of tide. So with my new calculations, I figured out that I was approximately 12 feet above actual sea level, 23.75 miles away. And essentially over 200 feet should have been hidden. What we're clearly seeing here, we're seeing down to about 80 feet. There is a building on a different slide to that. That's the side of the chimney pot. Sorry, the big, the big chimney stack. Actually, I might be able to get that up if I share my screen. Just 1 second.
Is that the picture I just posted in Master B's?
Oh, is it the next one?
Here we go.
Is it this Ranty's says 250 feet of Blackpool Tower, that one?
No,
yes, I posted those in Master. Hold on a second. I posted those in Master B's because we have a challenge to Ranty. He's punking you out with these pictures right here. It's FE Meme Parrot. He's chatting in Discord, and it seems that he has a case brought against you, Ranty. FE Meme Parrot.
Okay.
Get your butt on here.
Okay, I'll done QE. So what I'm going to do, I'll just transition away from Skype for a moment and then present your screen. So bear with me.
He was in here earlier.
Okay, so I've got you up now. Let's see if I can make this a bit bigger and prettier. Just go ahead, Ranty. I'll fiddle with it while you're talking.
Okay, so in the building, obviously in the imagery, obviously we have this building on the right. We have the chimney stacks that are clearly in the video, and we also see this building here. Now, these chimney stacks are 70 meters tall, so I believe that's around about 240 feet, and they're situated around about 15 meters above sea level. So that places them around about 280 feet or so above actual sea level, which essentially means that where my cursor is now, this is where the globe model would say, all I should have seen was this part of the top of the chimneys. Anything below that, anything below it, would have been hidden by Earth curve. Clearly, as not only in your video, well, your image that you took yesterday, but this building here was seen. This building was seen. These buildings were seen. The rest of the chimney was seen down to about here. As I say, we're seen down to about 80 feet. Earth curve says should have been over 200 feet of hidden. It's very simple. So either those buildings were looming, or the Earth isn't as round as they say it is.
Well, I'll just summarise that. So, no. I'll just put it back on screen. Give me a second. I said this yesterday, but I'll repeat it.
I might actually have the video ready to play. That's the image for.
Oh, you do it. It'd be better. Yeah, you do it. It's better.
3rd of December. This is both videos that I actually did. So let me pause it and just scroll through. So, go back a tad. There we go. So let me get to that point. Can you see that there's a sliver of this rooftop here down at the bottom? I don't know if you can see it because when I paused it,
it's on screen.
Sort of, well, that rooftop there is that building that I've just pointed out, that 80 foot. There's the chimney. There's the other buildings to the right-hand side of it. Now, as I say, over 200 feet should have been missing. The top of this chimney is 280 feet. Everything else, all these buildings should be hidden. It's as simple as that. It's very, very simple. We see it.
There you go. There you go. Now you've moved your mouse. It's clearer.
Yeah, you actually see it more when I actually play the video a bit. Might be able to go when I come back again. I'll scroll through. It's dead easy for these globe heads. You know, these buildings must be looming in their model. It's as simple as that. Oh, let me just get through to a point. Sorry about this, guys.
That's okay. There you go. That's good. Perfect.
There we go. There we go. So these buildings should be gone. It's very.
No, they shouldn't. No.
In their model.
According to their reification of a sphere model and the horizon being the leading edge of a sphere, then this is a slightly looming, non-standard refraction, holographic image of Devonshire dock halls from behind the reified edge of an Earth curve based on a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. Now, you, Ranty, and I, as a flat earther, can say Devonshire dock hall, 22 miles distance. End of statement. Earth is obviously unobservably flat. No justification required. So no, you don't need to assume it's anything. You see it, it's there. That's it. That's you seeing it. The justification is on screen. For them, who say it shouldn't be there, what do you mean it shouldn't be there? Is there? Well, no, it's a slightly looming non-standard refraction holographic image from behind the reified edge of my sphere that I reify into existence based on a begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking curve calculator. Of course, it's a mirage. Well, no, it's not obvious, and it's not simple, and it's based on a begging the question fallacy, and it's based on a model, and it's based on a reification. It's based on a whole load of nonsense when it's just simply a picture of Devonshire dock halls at 22 miles distance. End of explanation.
23.7 miles now.
Wow, 23.7.
Yeah, don't nick me miles.
No. My bad.
But yeah, one thing that needs to be addressed is obviously there is some obstruction clearly hidden by water. There is about 80 feet. Let's say 100 feet in total. Let's give them 100 feet of missing. There is missing that we don't see. There is physical obstruction by water. That can't be Earth curve though, because that would make your model incorrect. There is other things going on when you're looking across water. There is tidal movements, shoaling, swell, chop, all this kind of stuff that can account for things, slight amounts being missing, hidden from the bottom. One thing's for sure, what we are seeing here is buildings that we shouldn't see on the globe model, which means that you have to turn around and tell me that these are being loomed up. It's as simple as that. There's no other explanation for it. You can't just say, oh, there is a bit of obstruction at the bottom. That's definitely Earth curve. Because no, that would make the size of the globe that you live on 3 times bigger. That can't be correct. So it's either we see them because they're there, or there's something else going on, or it's looming. So I want a glober to come on and tell me that these are looming up.
We have one in Discord.
Tell him to come on and tell me that this is looming.
Well, but beyond telling you that something you see isn't really there, which is preposterous, they need to actually justify that. And they're never going to be able to, beyond just saying it. Anyway, I'm going to say with that, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who tuned in on the Nathan Oakley live stream for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. Stay tuned if you're watching on Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G Plus panels for making this live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Premiering Stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!